Hello, Blitz fans of all ages, it's me, PlumCastle, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Black Friday event that I was not aware came out because, yeah, it wasn't like super obvious, unfortunately. But anyway, we're going to be taking a look at it. Also, real quick, in case you don't get it like super easily like I did, you're going to come up to this biggest icon. It'll be like one of these three constellation stellar event, which is about to go away in like 9 hours, and then the Black Friday event. So first we're going to take a look at what is in here, and then we're going to take a look at whether or not it's worth it. And we're also going to be taking a look at the tank options in the store. There's a lot to go through here, so I'm going to try to go through this as quickly and efficiently as possible. So, there we go. That actually does load. So, what you're going to need to do to get these items. So, first of all, what's in here? Black box. Usually this is just like an RNG crate. You know, you can get like a black box 2. And then your chances for random stuff increases. It's actually like pretty not all that particularly special, to be completely honest. But anyway, moving out of here, that is probably one of the least things that you're going to be getting out of here. Other than these, so like research certificates, I'm just going through here. Premium, a collect 'em all container, those are generally okay. Free XP, cool. This is a profile background, which is kind of giving off some summer vibes, despite the fact that it is definitely not summer anymore. And of course, an avatar, a tank, and whatever this is. An awesome container. Oh, that's why. It contains a lot of good stuff in here. Although that's a lot of low drop chances for tanks. Anyway, random RNG stuff. Basically, there's like a lot of fluff in this event that kind of just like fills it out to make it look good. The main thing here are the tanks. So the first one, now there's actually 3 here even though you can't see them, and I'm going to try to figure out what the other ones are in just a second here. So we have the Chimera, which I have played. It's a pretty good tank, has some nice alpha. After that is the tier 9 Char, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Future? Probably a Char Future 4. I probably should have looked this up beforehand. But there's another tank in there somewhere, and I'm sure, there we go. Wargaming did post something on this, and I'm sure we're going to be able to see what that other tank is. Was it the, okay, this is the tank that I leaked a while ago. The 114 SP2. It is a tier 10. Based on the statistics, it's basically like a Chinese Z100. Probably pretty good. As you can see, though, the amount of currency goes up quite a bit from the Chimera all the way up to the 114. Now, that said, it's time for us to take a look at how we're going to get through this event, because that's not a normal currency, and I'm sorry to say it, but you cannot get that free to play. So we're going to take a look at this little icon here. And so, from November 17th to the 27th, you're going to look for bundles that have these coupons inside. And basically, it's just going to be going into the store and buying stuff, and they're probably going to have some of these coupons. Not all of them do, but I'm going to show you in a second. A lot of them do. Pile of treasures, grab blah, 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 blah. Most of this is just a random advertisement for the stuff. If you already have the Chimera in your garage, you get honestly, a kind of uninspiring 3,750. I personally think that should have been like 5,000. The Char will get you 5,000, and because the 114 has not come out before, there's no compensation, because unless you just like outright sell the tank and then lose it, you don't need compensation. With that said, though, let's now take a look at the bundles in the store. Now, I'm sure there's probably a couple of these. Like, if we take a look, the gold bundles, yeah, sure enough, they have tickets. I'm not really going to go crazy on the prices here. It's going to be a lot. Based on previous ones, it's probably going to be like, I don't know, probably like 200 to 300 just to get the last tank. I mean, we can take a look here. The last tank, as an idea, to get 950 of these, and mind you, the Char alone was over 1,000. That's already $100. And that is, I don't know if this got doubled. I do know my gold is doubled because I've bought gold maybe once in my entire life, so yeah. There's other stuff here, like the 40M shards, so you're getting stuff, but $100 you're getting not even the char. That's enough to get you the Chimera. Chimera would be about $50, in my personal opinion. As good as the tank is, probably not worth that amount. But moving on to really the main thing here, and honestly, I probably should have just prefaced this whole video with this. If you are free to play and do have gold lying around, this is pretty much the only thing you're going to really have a shot at for getting some of these coupons. So, I'm going to start at the bottom of the list because why not? And then we'll work our way up. The Strutzwagen 74A2. I don't know much about the tank. However, 1,500 gold for a tier 6, at least from a collector standpoint, probably not a bad thing to pick up. Cromwell B, I do have this tank. It is a fantastic tank, and I think 2,000 gold is totally worth it for this tank. Honestly, I would expect to pay upwards of like 3,000 gold for this. So yeah, 2,000, definitely want to grab that one. Unless you want to wait, sometimes it comes out in bundles, which means like the price per tank is a little bit lower. But as a standalone tank, this is pretty good. Titan, H, and D. As you can see by the little icon here, I have this tank. It is really, really bad. It may actually be one of the worst Halloween tanks I own. In my personal opinion, it's not even worth 2,000 gold. Somebody, I'm sure somewhere is going to really like this tank. But I'm not that person, and based on its really lacking performance, especially in the speed category, it's just not super fantastic. And you're only getting 50 coupons here anyway, so yeah, probably not all that super. E25, I have this tank. It is a fun tank, fun modes. Tier 7, 4,000 gold. Considering that this is kind of a meme tank, it might be worth picking up for that price if I'm being completely honest. The LT432. I get really mixed opinions on this tank. And that's kind of all I have to go on because I don't have this tank. Basically, people either love it or they hate it. From my understanding, it does not have a lot of gun depression. I'm just going to double check that. It's always good to check this. Yeah, gun depression, 5 degrees. That's not a lot. It is a typical Russian heavy tank, so again, no gun depression, pretty fast, low to the ground. And if you are really good with light tanks, you're probably going to do just fine with this. If you're not good with light tanks, you're probably not going to do so fine with this. Considering it's a tier 8 and that it can be used properly, 5,000 might not be too bad, but I would not recommend this just willy-nilly. It would kind of have to be a player specific, so overall, I would say probably not. The Skoda T27. Again, I don't have this tank, but I've actually had quite a few games very recently where people had these. It's a clipper. And I'm just going to double check this because maybe I was looking at the wrong tank, but I don't think its alpha is very high. 220, and you're going to honestly see a lot of 270 rolls just given how the game works. So 220 alpha, and was it like 3 shells? It's 3 or 4. I'm not sure where to see the number at the moment. Either way, in terms of performance, it's fine. There's nothing really, to me anyway, that stands out, but again, tier 8, 6,000 gold. It might be worth picking up for that price at any rate. T54 Mod 1. Garbage, honestly. It does not take much to take these things out. And isn't there literally like a tech tree that's like pretty close to this one? I'm just going to check real quick here. T44. So you go to the tech tree and you get the T44. It's basically similar. And this is just the bad premium version. Yeah, based on my experience going against them and what people say online, it's not all that great. So this is a T54, that was T44. Again, you'd be getting kind of the same experience, at least from my understanding. Anyway, the MK51. Pretty good tank, pretty solid. I have the tank. It's really cool, nice armor, very fast. It's a medium tank, but it's a very user-friendly medium tank. Like, you don't have to be, like, super good at the game to be effective in this. It is an all-around really good medium tank. 7,000 gold, considering that a lot of, like, decent-ish tier 8s are for about 8,000. Yeah, I guess that's okay. In terms of, like, if you were to spend that amount of gold, I would honestly prefer to see something like a Shark, for example, or a T-77. But 7,000 gold, I would say that's okay. You're probably not getting a steal here, but it's worth it, I guess you could say. The TS5, on the other hand, not so worth it. It is more expensive and statistically performs worse. I don't even need to play this. This tank just statistically does not do as well. It's just not great. It is pretty well armored in the front, but it's pretty slow, so you can get spin around it. Like, seriously, the Centurion is so much better. So yeah, this one, it's really hard to recommend for 7,500 gold. And again, I don't personally own the tank, so if you own the tank and you know how to use it, feel free to let people know down in the comments, because first-hand opinions are always better, in my opinion. But yeah, from my impressions, not really worth it. The Emil 1951, on its own, a pretty good tank. It's not as well armored as the Emil 1 from the tech tree, which also makes it a little bit hard to justify the 8,000 gold price. Now, it is a premium tank, that's cool, but the Emil 1 from the tech tree is slightly slower, has better armor, and is of similar experience. So, 8,000 gold for this, especially when you could get the Cent. Honestly, if it was me, I would go for get the Centurion and then get the tech tree Emil 1, and you've basically got the same thing. Or at least you've got something that's comparable, I should say. Type 57. Now, I thought I had this tank. I genuinely did, but apparently I don't. And I don't have the gold to buy this, so yeah, I'm not doing that. But the tank itself, based on how many people play this in high-level ratings, decent. Is it 8,000 gold decent? That may be debatable. Personally, for this one, I would recommend, especially on something that's a little bit more expensive, since I don't have a review on it, I would highly recommend someone else who has a review on it. You know, people like Droodles or Meadsy or somebody, Martimator, I think. Somebody is going to have a tutorial on this and is going to be very good at the tank and is going to be able to get a very good opinion on this. Based on what I've seen, though, it's a pretty decent tank. I just personally can't sit here and say, yeah, it's worth 8,000 gold, because obviously I've never played the tank. And then we've got the AP AMX 30. I don't know that I've seen this tank before. I'm sure it's come out at some point, given that it's in Black Friday. Tier 8. A tier 8 on its own, unless it's got like super crazy stats, which I'm just going to glance here real quick. I'm not seeing anything too crazy. It's a medium, so the damage per minute's probably not as high as it would be as if it was a light. I don't see anything that really stands out. It's Alt Proto AMX 30. I somehow have a feeling that, given the name AMX, is probably not going to have a ton of armor. That said, 9,500 gold for a tier 8 seems a little bit expensive just on a number basis. So I would say, personally, like, if I was to go buy this tank, what I would personally do is probably wait like 6 months until like the tank is considered oldish, and then the price is generally a little bit lower. But you can do what you want. Again, definitely recommend some videos or some reviews on the tank itself. The HWK30. This is also a tier 8, and it is 12,000 gold. I don't see how that would be all that spectacular. It's a light tank, and it's only got 2,000 damage per minute. That's I'd personally like to see those a little bit higher. Yeah, again, as a tank, it's probably fine. Just looking at the stats, it's a light tank, so it's probably going to be harder to play, and it's expensive. I'm not sure. Probably not worth it, though. Just on a hunch. We're moving on to some higher tiers now, though. The AMX 30, and I don't know how to actually pronounce that. Everybody who speaks like American English calls it the AMX 30 Oner prototype. I am sure that is not how that is pronounced. But seeing as how I've never heard it pronounced any other way, the AMX 30 Oner prototype. This tank's fine. I don't know if it's like 9,000 gold fine, but it is fine. I do have it. I got it out of a crate, I think. And nothing really sticks out of the tank. I think it's pretty decent, and it's one of those tanks that I can tell based on how it performs that a very skilled player could be very devastating with this tank. As an average tank, though, there's probably some other ones in here that would be a little bit more worth it. But in my personal opinion, it's not too bad. And then we have the K91, a pretty decent tank. It's Clipper tank, very good armor around the turret, though it can be penetrated, even if sometimes it looks like it can't be. It is a very weird turret. So if you're going against these, just keep in mind if you load APCR, there is a chance that you might actually still make it through the turret, even if it looks a bit red. This tank is pretty good. I think this is about the price I usually see it for, so in that sense, yeah, maybe fine. I don't really see this as being like a crazy deal. And also, I probably should have said this before, ignore the minus 38%. That's bogus. These tanks never come out not on a, quote, discount. The game just kind of shows this as 16,000. So in case that was confusing, you will, and unless Wargaming like totally changes their system, you should never see this tank for 16,000 gold ever, unless maybe it is the auction or something and then it goes down later. But 16,000 is just not a number I've ever seen this tank go for. Either way, 10,000, it's probably fine. Again, I've said this before, but I need to say it again. I do not own every tank in the game as much as I wish I did. So I can't give like a personal like micro review on each of these. WZ-114. Okay. Is this different? Okay, this is different. So this is like the tier 9 of the tier 10 that you're going to be getting in the other part of this event. Weird. I know not much about it. Though, a tier 9 and 11,000, it's 1,000 more than the K91. If it performs in reviews, then yeah, maybe. If it doesn't do as well as the K91, obviously it's not worth it. T95 E6, what do we have here? To my knowledge, this tank isn't all that crazy. It is a tier 10. I do know that hatch on the top is a bit annoying because you can get hit there pretty easy. Looking at the stats, oh, damage per minute, 3,000. That's pretty good, especially given that this is a heavy tank. With that damage per minute, that is pretty good. Damage per minute isn't everything, obviously, but yeah, I mean that's a pretty good chunk of damage per minute for a tank like this. 13,000, maybe. I mean, it's a tier 10. It's the lowest price tier 10 that they got in here. And then that brings us to the VK 90.01. This is 16,000 gold, like actually. Very, very expensive. 22,000 gold might be a price you could actually see this at, honestly. But as far as tanks go, it's like every other tier 10 super heavy, just maybe with some better armor. Like it is pretty hard to penetrate this thing. Excuse me. Overall, though, I mean, you've got, was it like the VK, whatever the one that looks like a giant louvre. You've got options in the tech tree that will give you this kind of super heavy experience without dropping 16,000 gold on this VK 90.0 NP. But from a collector standpoint, it may be worth going for. And then lastly, that brings us to the Object 268 version 4. I'm pretty sure it's version 4. It's just saying /4. This tank is pretty well armored for a tank destroyer. It's very inaccurate. And what is damage per minute? It's actually not too bad. 2,600. And then 650 alpha. Honestly, I mean, the stats are okay. I just don't know about 17,000 gold. But on the flip side, a lot of these tanks do come out for about 20-ish thousand. It's about 15 to 20,000 for a tier 10. So this is sitting right where the price kind of should be. So from that standpoint, probably fine. Overall, though, on the tanks here, and there's one more thing, because Black Friday is absolutely loaded when it comes to this game, but coming back and just giving a brief overview if you kind of just want to know here. Ones that stick out, maybe the T95E6. That's a maybe. The AMX30 prototype. Centurion for sure. E25, quite possibly. Cromwell B, hands down. And the Type 57, K91. It's not the weakest roster I've ever seen. We'll say that. I do see a lot of average-ish. Again, Emil 1951 might be totally good. For the most part, there aren't a whole lot in here that I would personally consider like totally junk deals. Some are definitely better than others. But other than the Titan HND, based on the fact that I haven't played all of these, but I have kind of generally seen how they play, the Titan really is the only one that sticks out to me as being a bad deal. But, of course, if you personally own this tank, would love to see your comments, because that helps the community out, because it is really hard to own every tank in the game, and I am nowhere close to that, so getting a little bit of help is, of course, super appreciated, and then that gets some community involvement down in the comments. And then that leads us today to the very last thing, and that's if you decide you want to gamble for some reason. Now, excuse me. This is the WZ121 GFT. Used to be super overpowered. It's still pretty decent, but considering the current tier 8 roster, it's probably not as OP as it used to be. But it's a little bit different when it comes to this particular draw. Normally you pay gold and then you go up through and get like slightly higher chances for this main reward in the center, that being the WZ121 GFT. Very long name, kind of a mouthful, and it's camouflage, but this time it's for coupons. Now, I don't know how many coupons it takes to finish this. It would be really cool if I could find that out somehow. Maybe this. Oh, it does tell us. Okay. So, it is not cheap. So, we go from 1 to 3 to 5, 7, 15, 25. Wow. This alone is going to be like 550. And it's going to be like 770. And yeah, that's going to cost you a little bit. It's easily going to cost you over $100. Unless you get like super lucky and get it. It's going to cost you probably 150, 200, just based on my estimate. Anyway, with all of that said, in a rather long video, that's what's going on Black Friday. Honestly, not the worst I've seen. Now, I do personally wish I had more of the tanks to give a little bit more of a solid review on, but that's what I have for now. And yeah, overall, the Chimera is pretty good. I just don't know if it's like $50 kind of good. But yeah, overall, could have been worse, could have been better, but I'd give this like an okay when it comes to the Black Friday events. But anyway, that concludes the video, and so with that, I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, have fun, good luck, and happy tanking.